for Mac. We'll be covering some gear and equipment, but not too much. So just raise your hand if we're talking too much about gear, because you have two gear-addicted folks on this live stream between Frank and myself. I will be showing some sneak previews or talking about some of the features that we're working on for both apps. So before we get started, it would be super helpful if you just quickly raise your hand in the chat and just let us know what you'd like to learn today. Of course, we have a lot prepared. We're going to just make this super interactive. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat, and we can answer any questions that you might have. We might park them sort of for a little while we talk through the specific topic, but just feel free to interrupt, and we'll just get flowing with the overview.
With all the chaos. Welcome.
So first, let's start with a little bit of setup as we are sort of slow rolling into this. What are we using to stream today?
So we're now using Detail for macOS, connected with a couple cameras. So this is the main camera which we're viewing right now, connected to Detail with the HDMI capture card. Reason because the camera's a little bit farther. You can of course directly connect with USB, but I use one of these, either the it's a Blackmagic or the more cheaper one, the Camlinks, or you can also use a generic one.
So there's one MacBook here, right?
One MacBook.
Well,
yep.
there's three MacBooks on this table, so it quickly gets very confusing. But
this is running everything.
That's your MacBook. This is a MacBook Pro.
Yes.
But there's only one USB cable connected, right?
Yeah. So out of the equation here, but very important is the USB Thunderbolt hub. The reason for we use Thunderbolt, it supplies power to the laptop, and it has a little bit more bandwidth. Because if you would use one of these, very handy, the cheap USB ones.
Well, we're supposed to start simple. So we have a Thunderbolt hub, which is just a USB powered hub, which has high speed.
Yeah.
And then we have one
camera,
one main camera.
Yeah.
Connected to this Mac through the Thunderbolt hub.
And you can connect it also directly, of course, in your MacBook, if you would want to do that.
Cool. And then we're streaming on YouTube. So we use the Detail camera as our camera on YouTube.
Yeah.
And while we're streaming, we can keep an eye on the connection and the chat. And I have the same open over here, so I can answer any questions.
Yeah. And the other laptop is just to demo something later on.
So we're going to use this MacBook to demo, and I'm just using this as untethered, unconnected. It has nothing to do with this fancy setup, right? Can you quickly run through the other stuff that we're using? That was the easy one, right? So it's just a camera.
One camera.
Could be a webcam.
Could be any camera.
In this case, it's a USB-C.
Could be Apple continuity camera.
Yeah, cool.
Then we have
What's
two
more?
very fancy microphones. These are XLR microphones, the SB7 with a cloud lifter going into the Rode. There's a Rode. There's a Rodecaster here hidden.
But none of this is necessary, right?
It's definitely not necessary.
It's nice, but it's not.
And it looks fancy.
And it's fancy because we typically use this room for podcasting.
Correct.
Studio as a podcasting studio, so that's why we have the fancy setup.
So if you do not want to use these because you need a lot of equipment to get it working. You
forced me to use these, right?
Yes, I forced you to use that one as well. I like these one. These are the Rode Wireless Go 2. Also connect to the Rodecaster. The beauty with the latest firmware, they update and then they connect wirelessly. But in order to make these work with your Mac, you just need this little base. There should be a close-up somewhere. Okay, we'll find that. This is the base. You connect this one with USB-C as well. Takes two microphones.
Cool, but we also don't need this. So
no,
we were supposed to keep it simple. So we have the microphones.
Yes. Running through the Rodecaster Pro, the reason why we use that is to have more microphones as well. And we, of course, have the spaces set up for podcast.
Yeah, but we're going to later in this episode or in this live stream, we'll be running through like the very basic setup, right? We have this fancy setup because we want to show off. Can you show some of the other camera angles that we have as well?
So then we have your laptop connected also with a capture card.
Yeah, so
with split screen.
This is what we're going to use later.
Yeah. And here, I heard someone is continuing camera.
That's my continuing camera.
And then we have a close-up of an iPhone that's on the middle of the table. That's we can talk about that right now. It's just I think that's
this is our segue.
This is your.
So we're gonna get started.
Yeah, I'm gonna go wireless here.
The overview. So one of the questions that we had was, how do I get the most minimal podcasting setup? And we talked about that on our YouTube channel and in different blog posts a few times. But what is the the easiest way to get started with a podcast if you already have a podcast and you want to add video, or if you want to get started with a podcast? And although it's a little bit controversial and it's different than most people, sort of I often have arguments about this one, but I would say the easiest way to record video for your podcast is with just a single iPhone, right? So let's run through what that's going to look like.
Could you please
this is where I have to move.
Yeah. We're now sharing the screen, and so Paul's sitting in my position. You can use the wireless if you want, though. It doesn't matter. One of the two.
I got it, yeah.
That's what we agreed on, Paul.
I really have to use this one.
This is, I think, the coolest and most minimal podcast setup possible on Earth. We're using these microphones then because, of course, everybody can hear us. But this is basically our newest addition to the Detail family, Detail Duo.
So Detail Duo is an iPhone app, which we started developing, I would say, about 3 or 4 months ago. So we have our Mac app, which is primarily focused on longer content, or whenever you're sort of sitting behind a desk and want to present. So product demos, tutorial videos, advanced podcast setups. So if you want to connect multiple cameras. And then we have the portable, super easy, lightweight iPhone app, which is called Detail Duo. Started with just dual camera recording, and we're now slowly expanding the feature set to make it easier to record both short form but also longer form content. So this is an example where we are going to record a podcast with it, right?
And it doesn't get more simple than this. The front and the back camera combined into, in this case, 2 scenes. But the beauty is you can either like focus on you alone, or maybe, you find it gimmicking. I think this is one of the coolest features, the live masking. So I keep doing the questions and you're the main subject. So I downplay myself in the corner. So all the focus is on you, or I make myself bigger, I think this is really cool as well, because then
one of our design principles of how we build Detail both on our Mac app and our iPhone app is that whatever you record can always be edited afterwards.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter which layout you take, right?
Yeah,
because
so you can record with a split screen and then later go into the timeline and quickly edit. But one of the main challenges if you record with an iPhone, of course, is audio. Right?
Yes.
Because audio, although the iPhone has great microphones, if you want to record a podcast, audio is super important. How do we upgrade our audio if this is the setup?
So
I think let's start with the simple one.
The most basic version is just to use the iPhone internal microphone. That's pretty good also. But if you want to use something like this with the reflection, you can connect these with a simple cable. It's a Rode Wireless Go 2, but you find, these are quite expensive, but there are cheaper generic ones findable on Amazon. You just use a USB-C to Lightning cable in this case. You pop the Lightning cable in your iPhone, USB in the receiver.
And there are 2 little microphones,
right? So they're basically the same that are hidden underneath here. There they are. And it works flawless. So you got 2 microphones connected into one receiver, super lightweight, excellent audio.
Now, there are also a lot of people that are already recording with a Rode, right?
Yes.
So what would be the easiest way to add video to your Rode podcasting setup? So you already have 2 microphones attached to this sort of fancy switcher device.
Yeah.
We don't have it in the picture now.
I can show you. Here it is. There it is.
So this Rodecaster, it's like one of the most common audio interfaces that people use. It takes multiple microphones. And then how do I connect this to my Mac?
Good question. You just use...
to my iPhone.
Yeah, your iPhone. You just use a USB-C cable, just USB-C to USB-C, and then you pop it into your... with the iPhone, you use the Lightning to USB-C.
Yeah, and there are 2 versions, right? So this is a longer one.
Yeah.
The funky thing with the Rode cables is that only the actual Rode cables work.
Yeah, that's
so there's some sort
actually
of chipset on these, or they're tagged in some way, but you need to use the official Rode cables.
Correct.
If you want to use the Rode microphone accessories, like the Wireless Go or the Rodecaster Pro 2.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you can connect it from Lightning, which is your iPhone, to USB-C, which goes into the Rodecaster.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a hardware trap, but if you have a Rodecaster, you can afford a cable like that probably, and you get something fantastic because you then actually can have like multiple inputs.
So a fun way to do this, if you already record a podcast, a super easy way is just to add an iPhone for your short clips.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges, if you use a single iPhone, of course, is getting it like positioned right.
Yeah.
So any tricks, any tips?
So now we placed it in the middle. I mean, I'm not sure if we can, we can demonstrate. This is just a normal. Can we call names where we bought this? It's just a normal desk from a Swedish nice.
This is IKEA for sure. Yeah, this is my space. This is, and we picked this because there was actually a little ledge in between the table, so we could sort of hide our cables.
And in this case, to get the shot with the cameras, we just placed the iPhone in the middle of the table, and we're facing each other.
Yeah.
And let me just go back to this shot.
So we're sitting diagonal on the table because that gives us a little bit more room to position.
Yeah.
Right. So we're a little bit further away. And the iPhone is actually not getting in the way if we have this conversation. We talk over the iPhone.
Correct. So I now have the iPhone image only, and I think that it works quite well, to be honest. Yeah, which I think it's so nice that you can. It doesn't matter which layout you take because we record everything ISO.
Yeah.
So I think this is the most minimal podcast setup.
Yeah,
in the world.
It's either the portable with a little wireless microphone like the DJI microphones or the Rode Wireless Go 2. Plugged into your iPhone, hit record, and you can get going. That's like literally
and then there's a wired
studio that
there's
fits
a
in your
wired
pocket.
version as well. I mean, if you're on a budget, there's even cheaper wireless version because the Rode Wireless Go 2s are like $250 US, and then the micro AI, which is with a cable, is $70. So
and your iPhone supports external microphones, which a lot of people don't know, but it's pretty magical because your Rodecaster can even be connected to your iPhone. And that makes for a great way to add video to an existing podcast. But now we're graduating to 2 cameras, right? One camera in the middle is nice. Sometimes you just need more flexibility or you want to get vertical or horizontal video as well. How do we build the same setup with detail for Mac
I'll get back
and
to your
2 iPhones?
Yes. Let me get back to the... we share your screen. All right. All right, back to my desk. I hope people have questions about this.
We didn't even rehearse this, right?
I'm stressed, Paul. Okay, let me see. Okay, so 2 iPhones, basically 2 camera setup. That's the question, right?
Well, we can get started with, or just improvising. We'll do the 2 iPhones as well.
Where's my, here. Let me find a spare iPhone. That's a good thing if you're working at a startup building iPhone apps. There's always an iPhone spare left somewhere. Let me get detail. So actually, maybe we should demo it. Can we demo it on your laptop? Because I'm also already broadcasting. I mean, technically I could find some lightning cables, which we have as well.
Almost.
Hey, Lauren. Nice to see you. Audio sounds good. Love that. I mean...
That's the mesmerizing sound of the SM7B, which is...
With cloud lifters.
They're the most famous podcast microphones because the sound is pretty warm. So we can get...
Yeah, shall I...
yeah, you can switch.
Okay, so I'm now switching to... and maybe it's cool to say, like, on my laptop, I'm running Beautiful iOS, and I'm broadcasting as we are doing this, but I'm also having Paul's laptop, one of them, is outputting an HDMI signal, which then I have a scene, when I switch to that scene, we can see what Paul's doing on his laptop.
Now
so
it's really confusing.
If Paul now makes a mistake, we can all witness.
Let's build the podcast setup with 2 iPhones. Right, so we're connecting, in this case, 2 iPhones.
Yours is already connected via continuity camera, which is great.
Yeah, so I'm connecting one camera with continuity camera.
Yeah, and maybe can I, on your left USB port? Yeah. I love the clumpiness of this, I love it. Okay, let me see. Trust. Okay. Do we have another one with a... No. Or do I? I just keep the wireless. Can you add my... so maybe we start with the first scene. That's
So this
Paul's.
is scene one. So scenes in detail basically can contain either a screen, a camera, or an overlay. And whatever you see in the scene, whenever you hit record, is going to get recorded. So we're setting up a scene for camera one. So that's the iPhone, which now is connected with continuity camera, which is a macOS 13 and up feature. So if your devices are running the latest macOS and iOS, it should automatically connect. And now we have a second scene that we're going to set up, and that's going to be a detail camera. So continuity camera, unfortunately, only supports a single device. So if you want to connect multiple devices, the best option is to use detail USB camera for iOS. So that's installed on the other iPhone, and that's why it connects. So it finds my Mac, and it's connected over USB. It should work over Wi-Fi as well, but it really depends on the quality of the of your network, and it not always, even if you have a good network, it's not always stable. So in general, we just recommend to connect it over USB, which sometimes causes issues with the number of ports they have on your Mac, but a good high quality USB-C hub, ideally that is powered, so that takes USB-C power as well, works really well.
And the cool thing about the USB or the default iOS version is that you can do multiple cameras. With Apple Continuity cameras, just limited to one.
Yeah.
The quality is amazing. It works wirelessly. It works seamlessly.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about our app is that you can do lens selection. Maybe you can show that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big strength.
So I can select the wide angle or even the telephoto, which is very zoomed in.
Or the selfie, which is, I think it's super convenient as well. So if
it's going to be, this is selfie.
Like, yeah, there you go. So I can see what I'm doing. That makes it actually more easy to present. If you
this is the wide angle again, where you see the full setup.
Our setup.
I should hide this. So this is the most minimal podcasting setup with detail for Mac. Then back onto the audio. So
it's the same, basically the same, because it doesn't really matter. Let me just quickly go to the. It doesn't actually matter. We can use both actually, right? The same applies here actually. That if you want to connect multiple microphones, the Rodecaster or a similar device, even this device works really well.
Yeah, so a lot of audio interfaces have USB out. So the most recent, like this is a Tascam recorder, the Rodecaster Pro 2, or even like the wireless mics that we just showed for the iPhone setup. All of these are just great options. But sometimes people want to connect two USB microphones. So if you select audio in detail, it actually only selects a single microphone.
Let me get to the detail screen. Yeah.
In the audio settings, you see in this case the MacBook Pro microphone and my iPhone microphone. If I would be connecting a USB device like the Rodecaster, it's going to show up here. And the Rodecaster is typically showing up with both like a stereo output, a mix down, or a multi-channel.
Yeah.
And always select the multi-channel output, because the multi-channel output actually outputs all the individual channels.
Correct.
We'll be recording each individual channel. And we're going to show you later how we're going to use that to automatically cut a full timeline.
Correct. That's one of the basically the same as we do with the videos. We isolate it to record all the cameras, but also audio channels, and it's quite important because we use that for the audio cutter. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have two microphones connected to your Mac, for example, two USB microphones, then you can set up an Arrogate audio device and connect multi-channel audio as well. So that's the easiest way to connect two USB mics.
Is it demonstrable?
I'm just going to drop a link in the chat.
We made a nice video about that.
There's a nice video about this, and there's a lot of these types of videos on our channel. So we're going to skip that one and don't get too much in depth. But with an Arrogated audio device, you can connect multiple USB microphones and record them at the same time.
Correct. A little bit more complicated, but then still fairly simple to set up.
Yeah. So this is like a two iPhone setup. Two iPhones, USB.
Could you make a combo scene maybe just to...
of course, yeah. Let me show you the combo scene as well. So I can create a side-by-side of this and select to do different cameras. So now
There you
we're
go.
cozy together in the same frame. And again, everything, whenever I hit record, this is going to be recorded into the timeline. You don't have to think too much about switching. As in, you could switch live between these scenes and automatically cut your timeline. Sometimes people have someone behind the scenes with the recording, and it makes it easy to already cut the timeline. But you don't need to cut your timeline anymore because we have a beautiful AI feature that automatically cuts your timeline if you record multi-channel audio. So you just hit record, it starts recording, you don't have to worry about anything. And then after the fact, you can change everything. Same goes for the combo scenes. The layout of the combo scene is not baked, so you can change it after you record as well. And everything that we build in that sense is non-destructive. So we try to make it as easy as possible to remix your content after you record it as well.
Maybe it's also interesting to see that we can actually, well, I'm not sure when we're doing while recording, but you can go to vertical scene instantly. So if you stop recording.
Yeah, so our canvas is, we call it like a magic canvas. So first stop recording, which means that you can easily switch between horizontal and vertical video. And whenever you hit export, now it will export the vertical video. If you go to horizontal, it exports horizontal video.
Yes.
So this canvas just automatically adapts. It's one of the features, a little sneak preview that we're working on for Detail Duo as well. Because you're not always recording the same format. Sometimes you have a long form video that needs to go to YouTube, and then the same video is being cut into shorter clips for YouTube Shorts or Instagram.
Nice. A
Cool.
lot of information. Questions.
There are a few interesting questions. So before I really I want to show how you can do the iPad recording with a little workaround.
Yeah.
And then I want to do the auto edit for a podcast, because we talked about that a few times. And that's a nice bridge into DaVinci Resolve as well, which is, I see that Carson Hardy has a question about DaVinci Resolve, which makes Frank really happy. Because Frank is a huge DaVinci fan.
Very big.
So we're going into timeline editing now, and then we'll show what you can do with DaVinci as well. So one of the things that we're trying to do with Detail is just trying to reduce the time to produce. So what that means is for everything in your video workflow, there's a lot of time that we can save. And bit by bit, we're chopping away of all these little like annoying tasks that you need to do to get great video out. And what we discovered, especially around podcasting, which is the first that we tried to tackle, just podcast editing is so time consuming. It just takes so much effort to get from like a 40 or sometimes even longer, like a 1 hour podcasting episode into a fully edited timeline. And most podcasters that we spoke with actually have very little time to produce.
Everything needs to be online instant.
Yesterday. So
yes.
Let me show you what the podcast auto edit looks like. I'm opening a really large project now. It's going to take a bit.
And then maybe we can talk about how it's recorded. It's recorded in this studio with 2 cameras, 2 or 3 microphones, depending, of course, on the... let me just quickly... it's recorded in the studio, 2 or 3 cameras. In this case, it's 2 cameras, 2 microphones. So that means there's... is it loaded? Yeah, it's loaded.
Yeah, and there's a little fun backstory to this one. So a few weeks ago, our friends from Podimo, so Podimo is a podcasting company. They produce podcasting content. They outfitted their studios with Detail. So whenever they record all their creators in the studio, which is about, I think in the order of magnitude, 50 episodes a week, they're recording with Detail. But their neighbors, and they have a really amazing setup. But their neighbors were moving in and decided to do some construction work on top of their podcasting studio. So they asked us if we could host about 20 episodes for 2 weeks in a row, which is super fun. It was a great way to learn. And this is an example recording of a podcast that was recorded in our studio.
Yeah.
And what you see here is, again, sort of it's a two camera setup. In this case, instead of the iPhones, it was a Sony camera. So 2 Sony cameras connected to a Mac. And this is angle 1, which is Kim. And then the other angle is Lauren. Oh, sorry. And both of these combined in the combo scene. Now, if I now want to start editing this, first we have the transcript. So this is a full transcript, in this case in Dutch. Sorry for the folks that can't read it. We have the AI insights. So that's an overview. Oh, it's not. It's always the live demo, right? And then here at the bottom, there's a little icon called Podcast Auto Edit.
So maybe it's nice to say that you could make a cut in the timeline, right? But then you need to do it manually.
But I don't want to cut this entire timeline. It's an hour and 5 minutes. So I open Podcast Auto Edit. And what you can do here, this is the first iteration of this feature. So we just want to get this out as quickly as we could. And what you see here is an overview of channels. So the Roadcaster, when it connects to Detail and you select the multi-channel audio as your input, it actually records 16 individual channels.
Yeah, and that's the actual devices that can be inputted to the Roadcaster. So if you have a different device, you have less channels.
Yeah, so think of it as, in this case, the channel 4 and 5 were the microphones. So we have channel 4, so I can quickly preview that. I'm not playing it because it's probably not going to go over the speakers. So I'm assigning channel 4, which is the microphone for Kim. I cheated because I already know.
I think you did your homework on this.
I have Lauren C5, so I actually remember that it's channel 5. So, and most of the time these channels don't change, right? So we know that we always record on channel 4 and channel 5 of the Roadcaster. So now I hit the edit button. This is going to be the part where I'm a little bit scared. It's a live
because
demo.
you're running not a production version.
And
right?
there we go. So this is the fully edited timeline. I actually know why this picture was a little bit weird. It's because I accidentally turned on the color grade. So let me make that a little
That
bit.
was actually a question about LUTs. We'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah, so there are a few. So now this timeline is just completely edited. I'm not sure how much of the sound you can hear. But it's following the entire conversation. So we use the conversation to automatically edit the timeline.
And you have auto edit.
And I have auto framing turned on. Yeah. And I can switch this again to vertical video as well. So this video is ready to share. It's, I would say, 90% edit. I wouldn't say it's the quality of your edit. But it's definitely really good because it follows the conversation.
What I find quite interesting is that the AI makes decisions that I might not make. So when I play this back, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because even when somebody's like, we'll switch quickly to the other. It's pretty interesting to watch, actually.
Yeah, and the challenge, there was we got this question very early when we started building Detail for Mac. We already had this question about, hey, how can you do editing based on the audio waveforms? And we decided not to build it until we could actually do a good job at it. So it really helps that we have like the transcript, and we can use the transcript combination with the audio and can make smarter decisions about the switching. So now it actually gets to the level that we think, wow, this is great video and it's ready to share.
And what's quite interesting as well, because I think we skipped this a little bit, we can also edit using the transcript. So you can like actually read the transcript on the right, and then if you click somewhere, your playhead will go back to the bit of the. I mean, it's in Dutch because it's a Dutch podcast, but this works in how many languages?
Yeah, so it's typically
right?
whenever I'm editing a video in Detail, I'm using the either the transcript and then the keyboard shortcut X.
Yeah.
So X is cut. So with the transcript and a little bit of navigation, and then the arrow keys to skip to next and forward, you can quickly edit the timeline.
And what would happen if I would be unhappy with a certain choice of the AI? We can undo, right? If you zoom in, so you can right-click and then select another scene.
Yeah, you can always sort of change the edits because you have the full scene. So I can change the. Let me actually turn off the auto framing for this, so you see the full picture.
Maybe zoom in a little bit on the timeline.
And now I can toggle these clips as well, so you can manually override. One other little lifty trick is if you generate AI highlight markers, it's going to generate the highlights for this video. I'm not going to do that now because it takes a little bit. But I can also use markers and change the duration of a marker to, for example, let's say 30 seconds. Not 330. And
Make a note,
And I have a 30-second marker that I can instantly export as a video as well. So
that's interesting for editors. And let's say I'm recording the podcast, but I want to send over my Detail project to an external editor. I can make markers and remarks so they can know where to export.
Yeah, and this is a good fragment.
Yeah,
nice. Then I share this project.
Nice.
Sneak preview. One of the things that we're working on for Detail for Mac is cloud upload for Detail projects. So we discovered a lot of these podcast especially the larger ones between 20 and 50 gigabytes, are really hard to share. So soon we have a way to automatically upload these for the projects that you decide. All of it will happen locally, but if you want to share it with someone else, you can quickly do that with our Cloud Sync as well.
Let me see some questions.
So one of the questions was, how about Final Cut Pro? So we already have great exports for your timeline to Final Cut. Frank, how do you use that?
Yeah, so if you would go to the, I'm going to go to the demo again, so maybe you can operate it. If you go to timeline, or it doesn't really matter, there's like export timeline on top of your, and then, export, what's this? I'm just, I need glasses.
Export source video as Final Cut Pro XML.
So, but what we do is we make an XML file that's readable by Final Cut and DaVinci Resolve, but it's a Final Cut standard. And as we have a lot of cuts on the timeline done by auto edit, this feature will give you a project file that you can import into Final Cut, and then you can start editing in Final Cut with all the edits made in detail. It doesn't matter if you use auto edit or did manual edit, scene switching. You can take it off from there and start to edit in a more professional editor than like Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve. For all our Premiere friends out there are tricks. There's a little bit of a workaround, but it doesn't work natively. But there are workarounds for that.
Yeah, so you can export your entire timeline, your recordings, including the raw footage, directly into Final Cut Pro or DaVinci.
Yes.
And I would even argue it works best in DaVinci. So the format just works best. There was one little thing with DaVinci. You have to open it in the...
Yeah, if for all your DaVinci lovers out there, don't open it in the cut page, but you have to be in the edit page. There's a bug. I think it's... I'm not sure what's happening, but because we make a multicam timeline and it works less well on the cut page. But your mileage may vary. DaVinci is doing a great job updating. There are some issues with the cut page. So
yeah, and so Carsten also asked about LUTs. We don't have any LUTs yet, but a little secret is that the color grades that we use in detail, so the filters, these are actually LUTs.
Yes.
So there might be
let me just
in the near future an option here to upload your own LUTs, so you can insert them yourself because technically it could already work. We just didn't get to building that feature yet.
We're getting some love for somebody that uses this over OBS. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. We're actually using it now as well. Then any other questions? Let's see. Is there any way to use AI to auto-sync audio with video? Wow, Carson.
Good question.
Good question. Spilling the beans. This was sort of scheduled for the end, but one of the features that we're working on.
Are we gonna do features already?
I'm gonna share.
I love these. This is my favorite.
I think we shared like some good setup tricks. We can go a little bit deeper into Detail Duo as well. But one of the things that we discovered with Detail for Mac is that, just like we just described, connecting an iPhone or doing like multicam setups, even with just your Mac and an iPhone, it's still pretty complicated. So it's hard that you need like a cable and you need to set up the connections and other things. And it also limits the quality of your video a little bit because we're connecting, for example, Sony 4K video camera with amazing capabilities over a USB connection, which makes for super fast. So we're winning a lot in time and workflow, but it also it's crippling the quality a little bit. So the quality is amazing, but the Sony camera can do more. So one of the things that we're working on as we speak is the ability to import any video into Detail and automatically sync it up with the video and the audio. And what that means is if you would have two iPhones and you just hit record at random moments in time.
With the native app?
With the native camera app. So you just record a standard video as you would be doing it. So I put one iPhone here, the other iPhone there. I hit record. And maybe I have a Rodecaster that has a SD card and I'm just hitting record on the Rodecaster as well. If you then take those three files and import them in Detail, we automatically generate a timeline. That timeline can be auto-edited. And you
So
can
we
export
create scenes, we create a transcript,
exactly.
and we do auto
yeah.
edit.
So you can still connect all your cameras and get the live preview and switch and get all the benefits of like the easy workflow of connecting over USB. But the auto syncing audio and video is coming probably after summer because some
One
of
of
us
our
are
engineers is on a nice break.
yeah, some folks are enjoying a well-deserved break. But the reason why we're building that is because it just and it makes it much easier even to do multi-camera recordings.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is also interesting is once we can do that for Mac, we can do that also for, of course, with an iPhone. And then your podcast setup could literally be just 2 iPhones.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Can you use detail with 2 or more iPhones without needing an internet connection? I'm finding that my scenes lag when I'm recording. That's a good question. Yeah. I would say
Yeah, you could use it.
there are a few. Let's start with a few general tips on how to get the best image quality, right? So if you use iPhones to record, I would always recommend not to record in 4K. So we do have a 4K setting, but iPhones, especially sort of the little bit older models, tend to overheat if you use 4K for a really long time. So let's say that I would be recording a 60-minute podcast and I used a 4K camera. The phone slowly gets warmer and it might slow down.
Yeah.
That's one. So 1080p.
We can do it though.
You can do it. You can use 4K, and especially if you record up to 10 minutes. But I would recommend that 1080p typically gets at least almost the same quality. And the reason why is because we use the same bitrate. So video has a bandwidth, so it's megabits per second. And the bitrate for our 4K video is the same as our 1080p. So quality doesn't matter a lot. Then the second one is if you use iPhones to record, always connect them over USB.
Yeah.
Because if you connect them over USB, you get better image quality and a more stable connection. And it keeps the iPhone charged. So any generic USB-C to Lightning cable works. Shorter cables typically are better. Up to 2.5 meters should be fine. We're using longer cables here as well. And we use some stock cables, standard cables. Connect them directly to your Mac if possible.
Hubs. Yeah.
No hubs. But if you only have 2 USB ports, so most
your MacBook Air.
MacBook Airs have 2 ports, then try to connect only max 2 iPhones to a powered USB hub.
Unpowered or powered.
Powered.
Yeah, powered. Yeah.
So your iPhone draws electricity from the USB port. It needs power. If you connect power to the hub, if you have a powered hub, it typically gives better quality. And in almost, I would say, not even almost, in every USB hub that we tested has issues if you connect more than 3 cameras. So
yeah, your mileage may vary, but then that's where the Thunderbolt hub comes in. This has more bandwidth.
Even the Thunderbolt hubs had issues, right?
Yeah,
so we typically try to connect only 2 cameras to a single USB port through a hub. So
and then if you would want to have like your Rode wireless go to and your 2 iPhones, put one in your Mac directly, put one on the USB hub, and then the Rode wireless go-to receiver, you put it on your in the USB hub. So that works.
2 cameras and a USB audio device.
That
no
works.
problem.
No problem.
Low bandwidth, low power, totally fine.
Yeah.
2 cameras, no problem. 3 cameras, not good.
And which is a pretty good workaround actually. That's without hubs, is to use one iPhone with continuity camera, one iPhone with detail for iOS, connected directly with a cable. The continuity camera can be wireless, and then use the second USB port for your audio device. Even better. So there's
and there so Pepe says I once used 5 cameras together with 2 iPhones, detail, OBS bot 4K, and a MacBook M1 Max. Yeah, it's.
This is my user. Thank you.
Thank you. That's. I think our record sort of in this particular sort of I had to hold back. So Frank was building up like the live stream today, and he was showing like the setup around lunchtime, and I think it was about 6 cameras and some screens, and do we all need those? But especially Apple Silicon, so the M1 MacBooks are just so insanely powerful that you quickly can get overboard with camera angles, screen recordings, external devices, wireless streaming over continuity camera. You can get really creative.
I like more cables.
One of the other questions is it best to use a USB hub power to...
Yeah. So it really depends because this.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can maybe. Yeah. Maybe we can show it in this.
So can you best connect your cameras to a USB hub?
Here it is. So these are unpowered, and I mean, it really depends. But I wouldn't put 2 iPhones on that. It just draws too much power.
Yeah. So I would say not more than 2 to a hub. If you have ports available on your Mac, I would recommend to connect directly to your Mac.
Yes, definitely.
But again, we've also seen issues if you get really crazy with a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
For example, one of the studio setups that we've built for someone else included 4 Sony cameras over USB.
Yeah.
And they ran into, the Sony ran into
bandwidth
like,
issues.
issues.
Sure. Yeah.
So in their case, we connected them to a USB hub and problems were solved.
Yeah, 2 USB. We split it.
Yeah, and there were enough ports on the Mac, but the power USB hub helped with power.
This is,
delivery.
but now it's getting really technical. But even the M1, the M2, the latest MacBook with the 4 Thunderbolt ports, if you have all your cameras connected directly to the Mac, one of the ports shuts off because there's too much power drain, which we didn't knew. But then we found out. So we put a hub which powers the cameras, and then we solved it.
But we make it very complicated now. In the end, sort of whenever you record, you sort of if you connect any camera with a capture card or directly over USB, or if you connect your iPhone with continuity camera or a USB camera app, you don't have any of these issues. So typically, just make sure that you use if you need to connect more, which is a very advanced setup. Make sure that you use a power USB hub and don't connect more than 2 devices.
Check.
Wow. What's next?
Did we cover the question about how to record your iPhone? We didn't, right?
No, we didn't. That's a little trick.
Yeah, we now used a little hack because I mean I'm not sure if everybody knows, but we're now having too much gear, but you can...
Yeah, so what's the easiest way so that we...
use QuickTime, right?
Yeah, so what is the easiest way to record, because a lot of folks use Detail to do like tutorial videos or a quick product demo, and they want a camera and, for example, the iPhone screen.
Yeah.
So what is the easiest way to record the screen of an iPhone or an iPad? Well, there's a little trick.
Let's try, we can do... we have a cable connected to this iPhone.
So this little trick is, I'm just opening QuickTime now.
Yeah.
Can you actually show my screen on the live stream?
Oh yeah, sorry. What's happening
So
here?
I'm opening QuickTime on my Mac, and I hope this works because this is one that I didn't practice. I didn't practice the rest neither, but I've been talking too much about that already. So the new movie recording, and whenever I do a new movie recording, it lets me select the source. And
the FE Pro.
So here at the bottom, you see like FE14 Pro, which is the name of Frank's iPhone in this case. So I select the screen. I need to give permissions. And
other device?
Other device?
Yeah, because it's a cable.
Yeah, other device.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can't have it. And then trust. So now the iPhone screen is showing in QuickTime. And so with this little workaround, this is just a QuickTime window that I can move around. And if I now open Detail for Mac again, oh, there we go.
Just open a new project.
Yeah.
Let me just... I find this a good question, huh?
Yeah, that's a good one. And this is a little trick, and that once you know, it's actually one of the features that we should be building, right? We should make it easy to connect your iPhone to your Mac. The challenge with that is that the API that QuickTime uses for this is not public. So you can do it, but you might get rejected on the App Store. So we have not done it for that reason. So now I can select a screen. So in my scene, I select a screen share. Oh, I didn't get permissions. And this MacBook I just installed this for this demo.
Okay,
well,
just you quit the apps quickly. Just
yeah, I'm gonna skip this one, but I can
Yeah, you
select
get
the
the
screen.
idea.
I can select
Yeah.
the QuickTime window as my screen share, just like we've been doing in the other demo.
give me the cable. I'll try to do it. I can do it. I think. Let me see
Which
if I can
cable
do
is it? This one?
The
The thick one?
the white one. Yeah. No, the other one. The
This
other
one?
No, the other one. The
This one?
No.
This one?
Yeah. I like live demos. We'll see what happens. Okay.
Unplug all the other cables.
Let's see where this goes. Okay, QuickTime. See if this works. QuickTime.
Thanks, Jochen. I just
Yeah.
shot a complete course with iPhone's DSLR cam link. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. So thanks, Jochen. So this little device is a capture card. And a capture card, in this case, it's a cam link, takes USB. So this goes into the USB port of your Mac with a little like converter. And it takes a HDMI cable. So there's an HDMI cable that goes in, for example, from a camera. And then this connects to your Mac. And this will show up as a camera on your system. So it's a really easy way to connect any camera to your Mac. But you can also use it, for example, to attach an iPad with HDMI out, or another MacBook like we've been doing here.
Success. It worked.
Oh, we're losing our stream.
No, I switched.
There we go.
I switched, yeah. So it works. So this is the QuickTime application, and I use the, I just open this, and I add a new scene, a screen share, and I add the movie recording, which is basically the QuickTime application window, and that's it.
So this is
easy.
This is iPhone screen on QuickTime and QuickTime into our live stream. True detail. This
Easy
is like
peasy.
full inception. And yeah, this is indeed. I think I'm not sure. We might have made a tutorial about this already, but it's good reminder. We should make another one.
All
So
right.
we have about 10 minutes left. If there are any other questions from folks watching, just drop them in the chat. We do our best to respond before we're nearing on the hour. In the meantime, there are a few things that we could talk about that are next. We already gave a few hints about new features for Detail Duo and Detail for Mac. But let's quickly run through what's on our roadmap for the next.
On my wish list. Let's talk
Your
about my
wish list,
my-
our roadmap. Your wish list is our roadmap. No, our customers' wish list is our roadmap. So for Detail Duo, some of the recent things that we shipped. Can we still show?
Yeah, why not?
Can you show iMessage? I think iMessage is
This should
on
work,
one.
right? This is
So we secretly
this is
shipped
my iPhone, so I need to be very careful what I'm
when
what
you
I'm doing.
open a new conversation in iMessage, be careful.
Like-
We're recording this as well. So last week we shipped a new little iMessage app in for Detail Duo, which means that you can now use Detail Duo to record short clips in iMessage. So iMessage has apps, like external apps, primarily used for stickers. And with our Detail Duo app, you can quickly record a multi-camera clip and send that to someone else. And again, you can shuffle that. Is it going to work? Yeah, are you showing? Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of delay. So whenever you record, you can actually remix that. You can also insert external video and send this. So it's a fun little minimal version of what we do with Detail Duo for Mac, or Detail Duo for iOS. Then one other thing that we shipped in Detail Duo recently are improvements to captions. So we have captions on video. One of the questions that we got in advance is, do you also get captions on video in Detail for Mac? So in our Mac app, we have transcripts. We don't have captions yet, but we're soon adding captions. So it's one of the features that we're working on next, which makes it easy to add text on top of your video based on the transcript of your video. We already have that in Detail Duo, and the transcripts or the captions in Detail Duo also work for external video. So you can easily open any video with Detail Duo on your iPhone, generate the captions, style them however you see fit, and then export the video again. So also, if you have videos that you produce with Detail for Mac, you can easily generate these captions. You can actually even install Detail Duo on Mac. It is a little bit suboptimal, doesn't look that great, but you could technically already use it for captions as well. Then one of the things that we're working on next for Detail Duo is iCloud projects. So Detail Duo already saves the projects in iCloud, so you can quickly save on different devices. But soon we'll let you collaborate, so you can record a timeline together with someone else, which means
this is one of my favorite features, actually.
Yeah, so you can record a clip, then someone else can record a response into it. You can share a project to easily edit it. So we can create video together. That will land later this summer. And we're adding an auto cue in Detail Duo, which is
another one of my favorite features.
Your favorites. So there will be a little auto cue at the top of your screen. So if you're recording like a short video, you can put your script in there and it will automatically start playing whenever you hit record. And we later add the option soon to record potentially with 2 iPhones, which is still far out, but it's a little sneak preview.
So that means that we can do multi-camera connection on your iPhone.
Yeah, so bit by bit, the features that we're building for Detail Duo on iPhone are getting closer to what we're doing on Mac as well, and the other way around. So there are some features that are in Detail Duo on iPhone that make it easy to create short form content. Some of those features will be brought into Detail for Mac as well.
So I'm actually showing how the capture, the functionality of this works. And the cool part is that we can still, this is a project that you recorded like a long time ago, and I can still change all the full layout.
Yeah, so
and even caption styles as well.
Yeah, so again, the same idea is what we do with Detail for Mac. We just want to record your video in a non-destructive way, and we try to merge in your workflow, we want to merge recording and editing. So it should be seamless to go from recording into editing and changing and adding something after. And the same goes for it should be easy to get a vertical video out to a horizontal platform, etc.
Super.
Then what's next for Detail for Mac? Podcast Auto Edit recently landed, so that automatically cuts your entire timeline. Later this year, we hope to expand it to different use cases. So for example, doing auto edit on a tutorial video. We landed a lot of improvements to transcripts, and we continue to work on improving the transcripts and transcription editing. And we had like a ton of smaller fixes and improvements and performance improvements in the app recently. We'll continue to do so, especially with iOS 14 landing soon. And one of the things that's really high on our wish list that we've been waiting for is the captions on video. So easily adding text based on the transcript.
I mean, now if you would use an external editor or even upload your video, you can download the SRT or the VTT file.
Yeah, so you can get the transcriptions, the subtitles, and
you
can already use that to upload with your video.
And they're super accurate.
But we also want to bake those in for short form content.
Yeah, amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. Thank you so much. Any questions that we that we missed? I think we should do this more often because I would love to hear about these future features. So, and then we make promises to our user base.
We never make promises. Well, we make a lot of promises, but we also deliver weekly. So
there you go. Yeah.
And I think one of the challenges, I think that might be a good way to wrap this up. If you want to stay in the loop on everything that we're building, be sure to subscribe to our channels. So I think our YouTube channel mostly has longer form content. YouTube Shorts are a great way. If you subscribe and hit the bell, you get notifications. We're doing a lot
on Discord.
Discord is a fun way where you can also there's a lot of tips being shared by other people. If you have quick questions, we can answer them as well. And I would say Instagram and Twitter are other places where you can follow our progress, stay in the loop.
And we're shipping weekly, so
we're shipping. Our Mac app goes out roughly every other week, and our iPhone app currently is being updated at least weekly, sometimes even more. So we have very short release cycles. And we always love to hear from our users. So more feedback is super interesting. If you have ideas or questions or get stuck on things, if you share those with us, we can try to help. of course, but it definitely helps us to inform our content, inform our roadmap, and learn a ton together.
Amazing.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for all the amazing questions.
It's already 55 minutes, so thanks so much for watching.
Oh, one more at the very end. Alexander asked, what about cropping screencasts to fit 16:9? Ooh, I know. We made some improvements to how we do cropping on the combo scenes already, and you can now use a screen source on a combo scene. So you can use the combo scene to get the screen source, and cropping in that combo scene is now at least as transparency. So you can change the background. There's definitely more that we could improve on that. But the combo scenes has new backgrounds and transparency, so that should at least get some of these things solved. One of the things that I absolutely hate and really want to address soon is the ability to change the position of a frame inside of a combo scene or inside of your scene. So if you have a camera, you should be able to zoom it in and move it around on the canvas. Yeah. And if you use a combo scene, for example, let's say that we would have this shot, we should be able to create two scenes out of that by zooming both of us and separating us, so that you need to be able to move the video source inside of the canvas. And that's something that we're going to work on probably just after summer.
Ian just got in, you're late, but you're going to watch back, which is good. Of course, you can connect 3-4 Sony camera. We just discussed this, but it really depends on what kind of hub you use. But I mean, we went through the subject quite extensively. But it really depends on what kind of... if you connect them directly to your MacBook Pro, which has enough ports, no problem. The hub can be an issue, but you need a good quality hub that powers them. But you can definitely do it. Yeah,
and in our we have like multiple studio setups that we either helped or that we've seen or used ourselves. Over here, this is typically a podcast studio, so this table, so that's why we have like the fancy setup with the microphones. Yeah, and we're recording with 3 or 4 Sony cameras, either connected over USB-C to a Mac M1 Mac Mini, which is the base level
Mac
Mini.
Base level,
That's 2 years old. 16 gigabytes of RAM. So
your RAM usage goes up when you have more or combo scenes. That's quite heavy.
So just with a baseline M1 and good powered hubs, you should be able to connect 3-4 cameras without any issue.
That is no excuse. There's no work going in your way, Ian. Sorry, I have to respond to this. No, I'm joking. So but then Ian, if you're still into the connecting multiple cameras, then I would recommend you use capture cards. It's less power drawn by the camera, so I mean depends how your setup looks though.
I can feel this question from Nicola. Please offer a beauty filter to make us older folks look. I feel your pain. I have that every single time that I need to record a video. We might be able to make a video with some tips and tricks on how to use light. So there are some good tricks there. But I feel you. I don't think we go into the beautify advanced. We're not trying to build TikTok, so we don't want to go too far into like crazy filters and changing your face or AI type filters. But I do think there's a lot that we can do to improve your picture while still making it look natural. And especially on Detail Duo, we're soon gonna experiment with different lighting modes. So trying to tweak the picture using the foreground and the background to advance the picture.
I think you did a super cool video recently on TikTok, right? That you used the camera settings, the camera modes of your iOS device.
And we're gonna build those types of lighting modes into Detail Duo. On Detail for Mac, you already have a few filters. And there are little tricks that you can do by using the foreground background separation. So you can use, for example, a slightly darker background behind you. But I would say the best bet to make to make yourself feel comfortable about yourself in front of a camera is lighting. I think that's the main trick. I have these spots now, so that when I record like short clips, I just turn into the light, and at least it makes me feel like I'm like a few years or younger.
Softbox,
big lights.
But sunlight. Now this is all natural light. We did this on purpose.
Well, that's why we look like this. Thank you everyone for joining. This was super fun, and hopefully again soon.
Thank you guys.